March Madness kicks off next Sunday, which means millions of fans will be glued to their TV screens. But if you want to take a break from the couch and get some fresh air, Maple Madness is just the thing to take your mind off your bracket. Boaz is over at the Beechwood Farms Nature Reserve to learn how to collect and make his own maple syrup. And this is ahead of the Audubon Society's first event. Boaz, I have to tell you, my mom lived in Vermont for a good number of years. I knew that we could tap maples there, but I didn't know that it was being done here too.
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. All over Pennsylvania you can tap maple trees. And we're going to tell you about the Maple Madness event. And we're also going to do a little time travel this morning. Here's Ryan, as you can tell, is dressed in pioneer garb. And you were telling me that people have been tapping maple trees in this area for over 1,000 years?
Yeah. It started with the indigenous peoples around the Great Lakes region. And the pioneers were very, very keen to exploit that resource as well, but they had metal technology, so with the advent of axes and drills and cauldrons, they could really ramp up production.
And here you've got some of the objects they would use in the early maple syrup production. So this is what maybe some of the indigenous people might have used?
And this is a shallow trough that they probably would have finished their product into maple sugar, which is what this is. So the indigenous peoples weren't making maple syrup, they were making pure maple sugar.
I wanted to lick that, but they said a lot of kids had licked it already, so I'm not going to.
No, you don't want to do that. And so, you know, as time progresses and they have metal technology, we have drills, and originally the spiles that they would use to put into the trees were made of elderberry or hollowed out wood. Okay. Very quickly those became metal, and ultimately now we use plastic and plastic tubing that kind of daisy chains multiple trees together.
Wow, and we have some finished maple syrup right here, so remember this, because we're going to see some of the sap a little later. I can't help myself. I got to take a sip.
Isn't that amazing?
That's so tasty, yeah. And so Maple Madness is happening 3 weekends this month. This is Chris over here, also from the Audubon. And Chris, tell me what people can expect at your events.
Yeah, so this is a fun sort of experience as we take the public, the viewing public, through basically maple sugaring throughout history. Mm-hmm. And you get to experience how the indigenous people did it, from the pioneers to our modern tapper station. And at the very end, there's a nice sweet surprise for the public.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Well, let's go check out some trees. I want to bring this maple syrup with us too, because I think I might get thirsty. Could you grab that for me? And so over here, Ryan, there's a couple different ways you're tapping trees. So I'm sort of familiar with the little metal, I guess, nozzle spout, but here you've got just like plastic bags on trees.
Yeah, and again, we're showing techniques used throughout history, and most commercial producers don't use these bags, but they were used in the past. So we tried out different technologies, from the metal buckets to the wooden buckets to the bags. So right up here we can see there's a metal bucket on a tree over here, and we can take a look at that sap in there. You can see what it looks like when it comes right out of the tree. It's very different than the syrup.
And so you're collecting hundreds and thousands of gallons of sap, and how much sap does it take to make that final syrup?
It's about 40 to 60 gallons of sap to get 1 gallon of syrup at the end.
Wow, and that's a lot of work. And so are you just boiling it continuously on a huge stove?
Yeah, in the past they used wood-fired evaporators. Nowadays most of them are propane-fired because it's a little bit more efficient. Now they have more ways to increase the sugar content through like reverse osmosis. But in the past it was just boil that sap down.
Wow. Okay, well I think I've got another glass right here so we can take a closer look at what this sap looks like. Although you were warning me, this winter has been unseasonably warm. Wow, it really just looks like water.
It does.
And so because it's been so warm this winter, something happens to this sap called skunking?
Well, at the end of the season, whenever the trees bud out, the chemical composition of the sap changes, and it does take on a skunkier flavor, so it's not good for making maple syrup. So that's nature letting you know, hey, season's over.
Right, and normally that wouldn't happen for a couple weeks here.
It all depends on the weather. So syrup production is wholly dependent upon the weather. We need freezing nights and above freezing days. Wow. So if we have a warm night, warm day, no sap. Cold night, cold day, no sap.
Okay, so this could either be sweet and delicious or skunky and gross, and we're going to find out on live television. Somewhere in between, I would say, but we're going to chase this with a maple candy they've promised. Oh my gosh, I bet this is going to be
Take you back.
Much better. Heather, I have one question for you. Mm-hmm. Do you say syrup or syrup?
I put syrup. Syrup. I say syrup. What about you?
Yeah,
Are you
I don't
syrup?
remember what I've been saying for the past few minutes.
You almost have to use it in a sentence. Do you put syrup on your pancakes or syrup on your pancakes?
Syrup. I think I do say syrup. God,
See?
I'm glad we clarified this. Well, there's a lot of fun to be out here at Maple Madness, and you can pronounce syrup however you want.
I had no idea it came out that kind of watery, clear consistency. I just assumed it looked so much like syrup when it would come out. Look at that. That's crazy. All right, Boaz.
Yeah, just sort of like a cloudy water.
Yeah, skunky, somewhere in between. Thank you so much to Boaz. And the first event is this Saturday at the Buffalo Creek Nature Park. The second event is on March 16th at the Beechwood Farms Nature Reserve. And the final tour is March 23rd at the Succop Nature Park. And you can register for a time slot online. We're going to have a link on our website, kdka.com/talkpittsburgh.